Dön geri İbrahim Tatlıses, dön geri. Dön geri İbrahim Tatlıses, dön geri.
What up, bros? Can't hear you, man. Music's too fucking loud.
Sen aşksın, sen huzursun, sen milyonların sevgilisi, imparatorusun. Sen aşksın, sen huzursun, sen milyonların sevgilisi, imparatorusun. Erol aşkın güneşi,
Halloween, baby.
Sen çok
Halloween.
değerli.
Okay, so before I start talking about this film, I want to let you know that I am a huge Halloween fan. Like, I've seen every single Halloween film, like all 20 of them. Even though they're not great movies, well, to be honest, everything except for the first Halloween is absolute fucking garbage, but I still enjoy them. See, because I really love the character of Michael Myers, and I like just seeing him murder people, so even if a movie is a bit lackluster, to say the least, I'm still going to enjoy the film. That being, I am very happy and glad to say that this is the best Halloween sequel we ever had. Which, you know, looking at the competition is really not saying much.
Wanna fuck with me? Huh? Fucker?
Yeah, man, the fucking bust rhymes kick. But of course, since this is Hollywood, this film is not perfect. As a matter of fact, it has a lot of flaws. But before I get into that, let me go through some of the good stuff. The good stuff, of course, is the character of Laurie Strode. They really made her a strong female protagonist without making it some sort of feminist propaganda. Like, she's not a Mary Sue. She is not like an all-powerful, she can do whatever the fuck she wants, like she's good at everything. No, she's a very flawed character, and that is what I really like. We see that ever since the events of the first film, she has been suffering from PTSD, and she has been living in constant state of paranoia, and basically all the scenes that have to do with her and Michael Myers are really good. Those are actually the best parts of the film. Michael Myers is more menacing than he ever was before, and not just by the look of him, just his mannerism and what he does in this film. Instead of just specifically focusing on Laurie Strode and basically her family like he does in most of the sequels, he just kind of at one point goes on a random killing spree, which I kind of found interesting. Like, yeah, I know it's just an excuse to have a bunch of deaths, but it also made his character really unpredictable. Like, the main problem with the Rob Zombie sequel reboots is the fact that they humanized Michael Myers too much. Like, they made him a character which the audience is supposed to understand, which is not the point of his character. He is basically a monster that you cannot understand him. Like, he has his own mindset that is completely void from any other human being. Like, he is living in his own little world. He's not talking to anyone. He's not opening up to anyone. Nobody knows what's going on inside his head. And that's what I found really interesting, that this film really avoided the temptation of like showing his face and making him talk, which it was very close to doing at one point, but all the scenes between Laurie and Michael Myers were great, and the third act of this film is absolutely amazing. Like, I loved the third act of this film. It was basically everything I wanted this film to be, and everything that I ever wanted from a Halloween sequel. It was intense, it was scary, it was like satisfying, and it was great. And also one more thing that I really love are the kills. Man, the kills are really brutal and violent, but they're never over the top and silly. Another thing that I think this movie did best out of all the sequels, it really made him feel like Batman. Fuck. It really made him feel like Michael Myers from the first film. And that's for the most part good things. Now we get to the bad. And the bad, unfortunately, is everything else. Like, it's not horribly bad. Like, there's no, you know, this. But I just felt that all the other characters outside of Laurie were kind of lacking, especially the teenage characters. Like the teenage characters were absolutely fucking awful. They were shallow, and they were basically there just to die. Like, there are two characters at the beginning who, like, the first time we see Laurie's daughter, they're walking with her. They're like two, I'm guessing, two of her best friends who are in that first scene, and then at the very next scene when they appear, they get killed by Michael Myers. But the worst offense of all is the boyfriend character. Now, the reason that I really hate his character is that he could have been actually interesting. There's a scene where he is at a family dinner with, you know, Laurie's daughter, her husband, and Laurie's granddaughter. And then Laurie comes along and she starts having some nervous breakdown, and it's a really awkward family moment. And it's really, you know, awkward for him. But in my opinion, he handled that really well. He wasn't judgmental. He was actually pretty cool about it, which was why I found him kind of interesting. You know, it's like, okay, you know, he's, you know, actually gonna be a good guy. And then at the very next scene when they go on some Halloween party, he, for no fucking reason, makes out with this girl while Laurie's granddaughter goes to, like, have a phone call. And he decides that it's the perfect time to make out with this chick. Which is, first of all, very stupid. Like, if you're gonna cheat, do it in a smarter way. Like, you expect me to believe that there are no friends of... Fucking need to see what the granddaughter's name is. Hold on a second. Is it fucking Karen? No, Allison, right, yeah. Allison. So that's the granddaughter name. So, like, you expect me to believe that there are no Allison's friends at that party. Like, any one of these people could just, you know, I don't know, hit up Allison and tell her, hey, your boyfriend cheated on you with this chick. Like, it's just really odd and dumb move. And I felt that it was completely out of character compared to what was introduced to us before. But that would have been fine if it had any sort of fucking payoff. The only reason that that happened was to put Allison away from the party so that she would later be in danger. And then after that scene, the boyfriend character fucking disappears from the film completely. Like, he never appears again. Like, the least they could have done was, like, have Michael Myers kill him or something like that. But no, instead, like, fucking nothing happens. Like, I was expecting him to come at the end and, like, fucking, like, I don't know, save Allison and redeem himself. Because, as I already said, they made him seem like a good guy at the beginning. So it was just really bizarre and stupid to have just his character do that and then just completely fucking disappear. That's another thing that I'm not sure how I feel about. And that is the fact that the movie kills characters, some characters, that would have been very interesting later on. Like at the very beginning, like near the beginning, two characters die, which I thought they were going to be have a much bigger role to play later in the film, and they just get killed off. I mean, I guess it makes sense, you know. I mean, it is a good Michael Myers introduction scene and does make him much more intimidating and imposing, like having him just kill two main characters like near the beginning of the film. But I don't know, I just kind of felt like maybe it would have been more interesting to see these characters throughout the film than instead of the fucking granddaughter and those teenagers. So yeah, my main flaw is that, you know, it focuses too much on the characters that I didn't really care about. There's a new psychiatrist character who's like, basically like Laurie at some point says, "You're the new Loomis." And he's basically like supposed to be new Loomis, but they do a little twist on him later, which was kind of out of nowhere. I wish that kind of like what he does later in the film was explored a bit more. But I do understand that, like, you know, spending your entire life like exploring a person like Michael Myers would have such effects on you. But, you know, it was just kind of like too big of a switch. And I feel like it was just done so that, you know, we would have like a big twist. Now, the plot of the film was actually pretty simple, which is something that I really liked. See, the problem with these, with the other Halloween sequels was they tried to do too much. Like, they tried to introduce a lot of new elements, and it just kind of like became, you know, overly convoluted. And I like that this is just like a simple, you know, story. It's like, it's basically Michael Myers escaping and going after Laurie. Sure, it's a bit of a retread of the first film, but if you're gonna have a sequel after 40 years, ignoring all the other films in between, you should kind of do that. Like, it really took the Force Awakens route, you know, of making basically like a soft reboot that's like supposedly a sequel. But you know, for this film, it's fine. Like, if they have a sequel, they should do something more interesting and different. But just don't do anything that the other sequels did. Don't reveal Michael's face and don't make him talk. Like, if you do that in the sequel, you will fuck it up completely and I will fucking kill you. There's one more thing that I want to talk before I wrap this video up, and that is like one of the lines that was said near the beginning of the film. And basically, like, one of the teenage characters, he says they're talking. Basically, these teenagers are talking about the events of the first film. You know, 5 or 6 people were killed, and blah blah blah blah. And one of the character comments that like in this day and age, an event like this really isn't that terrible, and it's like nothing special. Which I thought they kind of commented generally on like Hollywood and like state of not just horror films, but films in general. How like a film like Halloween, when it came out, was like this huge deal, and it was like you know, it was like one of the scariest film ever, and it was like a horrible, you know, film, and everyone was like shocked by it. But now in this day and age, like by today's standard, a film like Halloween really has no impact, which is why this film has a scene where Michael Myers stomps on someone's fucking skull and cracks it open. So yeah, overall, as a final verdict, it's a good film. I would give it like somewhere between like 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. I'm not sure. Like when I think about the Michael Myers scene, it leans towards, you know, 7 out of 10. But when I think about like all the other shit, like with the teenage characters or whatever, it kind of goes down to 6. So it's somewhere between 6 and 7. I wouldn't say it's an 8. It's definitely not an 8. I wouldn't say it's anything below 6 because I still really did enjoy the Michael Myers scenes. But yeah, overall, that's my verdict. See ya.
He should have killed the baby.